Welcome! Welcome to Lesson 2, Mastering the Dynamic of Intent. Today, we'll learn the very important distinction between intent and intention. We'll also address how to create an intent for someone else, and the most effective format for creating powerful statements of intent. So, have you asked yourself today, what is your intent for today? When we talk about conscious creation, this is one of the most important questions you can ask yourself as you start your day, as you go into a business meeting, as you're about to have dinner with friends or family, as you're ready to give a presentation. These are the times to consciously create your intent. Now, I also like to create an intent for people, for the world at large, for the people close to me. I'm sure that you do too. So how do we master the dynamic of intent? Intent is the active dynamic of creation that we have been divinely bestowed with by virtue of our human birth. Everything manifested begins with intent, either consciously generated with awareness or generated from default patterns established from the past. There's a significant difference between thinking as an act of consciousness and merely having automatic thoughts that flood the mind. Thinking as a conscious act includes a consciously generated intent. In our first lesson, we discussed the importance of the quantum mind shift of living with the awareness of fields as a natural part of everyday life. This understanding and experience of fields is another important aspect of mastering the dynamic of intent as well. We're connected through fields, invisible to the eye, yet just as real as the physical. When you're working with intent, you have to know also that intent is not a cause and effect dynamic. It's a field effect. You know, when there's something in life we really, really want, we say, well, if you put your mind to it, you can do it. What does it really mean to put your mind to something? Traditional education, as we know, has not yet begun to teach us about the inherent faculties of our own mind and how to use them. And so we say intent is the first of the 5 natural faculties of mind that we're mastering this week. As I said, I want to make this very important distinction that is really at the core of conscious creation, the distinction between intent and intention. Did you ever feel as though your intent is somehow not working, that it's not bringing about the results you really desire? The reason just might be that you haven't made this distinction between intent and intention. Now, people often use these terms interchangeably. However, in quantum think, I make this distinction because it has everything to do with how we manifest. Think of the difference between intent and intention this way. Intention refers to a specific measurable result. An intention is a guiding force that it's toward a future result that's your goal, something specific and something measurable. In contrast, the principle of intent is a force of activation, an activating force. Intent is not a course of action toward a singular goal. Intent activates the field of energy intelligence. So intent attracts not just one result, but many results consistent with your intent. Intent thereby generates a resonant field. Your intent shapes the quality of the resonant field. As we realize what we resonate, we attract. Resonance is a field of energy informed by intelligence. So we can also say this resonant field is a field of mind and awareness. Again, the field shaped by your consciously generated intent will attract to it not just one result, it attracts many results over time consistent with your intent. Intent is an ever-present force rather than a state to reach. It's always an effect. Now you can see the relationship of intention and intent this way. Intent is the context that allows for the specific results, your intentions, to manifest as many measurable outcomes and milestones that are consistent with your intent. Intent is the context. Here is it said simply, an intention is a specific result or goal, and intent is a state you're dwelling in. A state is the activating element of manifestation. This is why it's so important. It may sound a little technical, yet it's simple, and we live this every day. You wake up on a bad hair day, and what happens? Without intervening to interrupt that state, you may have a series of minor calamities, and then you say, you see, I knew this wasn't a good day. On another day, you wake up and it feels magical. Everything goes your way that day. What's the difference? Your own patterning, your own state. We're here to master consciously creating, and that means getting command of your own state. An intent, consciously generated, has the power to shift the trajectory and the circumstances of your day and of your life. I like to wake up and create the intent. Today is a glorious day. And it works. Try that one. You'll like it. Today is a glorious day. So very important to understand and keep in mind, intent is not a cause and effect process. You might not see a direct linkage between your intent and the results of it, because intent is a field dynamic. It's not that mechanical push-pull. The best way to experience this is with an example we can all relate to, I'm sure, our relationship with money. Now, most of us have an intention, that is, a future goal for a certain amount of money we'd like to manifest through earnings and income and through our work or investments. So let's say you have a goal for an annual income of $1 million. However, when you think of money, you notice that you're holding in your resonant field, in the feeling tone of your being, all kinds of limiting thoughts, ideas, conclusions that create resistance, dissonance, or a counter-intent to your intention for the 1 million annual income. Now, the limiting thoughts might sound like this, but I'll never make any more money than that because the economy is bad, or because my parents never made more than that, or because I don't have the right training or education. So what happens to your intention? It gets thwarted because the natural faculty of mind that is key to manifesting is the faculty of resonance. They all work together, these 5 faculties. And what you are specifically resonating around the idea of earning 1 million annually is not consistent with that goal. Your resonance is not matching. Your intent is not aligned with your intention. Your resonance, shaped by your intent, is not a match for your goal or intention. We call that an unaware intent. When we make a distinction between intent that we're creating consciously and a default or unaware intent that is a vestige of an old pattern or habit, that's when we can bring our intent into alignment with our intention or goal, when we notice this. So intent is always in play. We're either creating consciously with the awareness that we're doing so, or the default patterning from the past that's been running in the background like a background computer program is generating for us. In the moment-to-moment activities of daily living, we don't often stop to consider or create. What is my intent with regard to this situation or this person I'm in a conversation with right now? So we'd be very smart to develop a conscious habit of asking ourselves, what is my intent here? When you're about to get on the telephone with a client or speak with a customer, as you're on your way to a business meeting or a family dinner, you can consciously make it a habit to ask yourself, what is my intent for this meeting? Because now when you ask that, you can create consciously. You're generating your resonance consciously. And here's another aspect of mastering the dynamic of intent. You can create an intent for another because we exist in relational fields. Because we exist in fields and we're related through the field, we're connected that way, you and I can create an intent for another person. Of course, you realize in your history of being a human being that we cannot change other people. So a meeting with others is always about the experience of the relationship, the relational field between you and the other person. In the context of intent, you cannot use intent in a way that's manipulative. Remember, it's not cause and effect. It's field effect. And we don't want to manipulate another person. To say it simply, what experience would you want the other person to have in their connection with you? What experience do you want to have for yourself? What experience do you want for both of you? You might want to have an experience of feeling connected, of being partners, of respecting one another's expertise, of appreciation for the relationship and what you both make possible by your relationship, by coming together. In the form of a statement of intent, that may sound like this. We're excited about meeting and doing business together in high regard and respect for what we each bring to the table. That's a created context for an intent. You most assuredly elevate the quality of your relationships when you use the power of the dynamic of intent this way. Now, here's another tip for mastering the dynamic of intent. As you're about to create your intent, it's a wise idea to go within to your meditative faculty for a moment. You clear the static on the radio of your being for it to work best. It's a connectivity, it's connection we're doing. And again, very important to keep in mind, statements of intent are not absolute truths. They are created context that you are choosing to live from. This is the difference between positive thinking and quantum thinking. It's always good to have positive thoughts, right? However, in this case, I'm talking about when you have a negative belief and you're holding it as the truth, it's in your feeling tone, and then you try to cover it over with a positive affirmation, but you're still holding the resonance, in your resonance, the negative belief. This is what we call the proverbial foot on the accelerator and the brake at the same time. So it's no wonder that your intent may not be materializing the results the way you desire. Now, when you quantum think, which we're doing together all the time, you realize there's no absolute truth about your belief. And this frees you to live from a new intent, from a new context. How do you create powerful statements of intent? Well, you already may know that you create it in the present tense, as if it is already happening. In fact, the force of your intent is in action the moment that you generate it as your intent. Your new statement of intent is the activating force of your resonant field. You're conditioning the field, and in turn, and this is very important, the field conditions you and the people you're with. This is how it works, these field effects. Thus, you attract what you really and truly want from your heart, soul, and mind. This is what it means to live the wisdom, to create from intent consciously this way, to color our resonant field. So as we come to the close of our lesson for today, I want to talk a little bit about our relationship to the state of our dramatically changing world. How can we use the dynamic power of intent to deal effectively with so much change, with what seems chaotic in the world today? Everything is interconnected and interrelated, and it's important to stay present to our role in the world. When we look at what's happening right now, not the specifics, but the larger context, consider this. There are 3 ways you could be with the rampant change that we experience daily. First of all, you could ignore it. I know you're not. Pretend it's all going to go back to normal and just wait for that to happen. Not a very conscious way. Secondly, you could adapt to it. You could watch the circumstances coming toward you and try to adjust to them. Or thirdly, you can be a force in it. You can have a say in the way the circumstances go. And I'm bringing this up today because the conscious use of intent is the mind dynamic that renders you and I forces. We are in this course to strengthen our ability to live consciously. And that means that we can be a force in the way our life goes and also in the way the world goes. We all know we're in a very different time now. The culture of society, entirely different than what some people often like to talk about as the good old days. But it's time for us to create the good new days, a wonderful present and future to follow. Remember, everything is working in our favor. That's our intent. So I'll close by saying, may the force be with you, and may you be with the force, and may you be the force. As always, it's a great pleasure to be with you.